Hello, everyone. I'm Ken Howard. I'm the co-president of SAG-AFTRA. And because of that, I'm afforded the great opportunity and privilege of interviewing my dear friend, Dick Van Dyke, who is receiving the Life Achievement Award from SAG-AFTRA this year. This is such a thrill for me, and it's just so great to have you here.
Thank you, Ken. They finally got to the V's, I guess.
That's right.
That sounds, I'll be the first one under SAG-AFTRA.
That's right.
Yeah, I'll be number one.
And it's only right, and particularly because, we'll jump around here and talk about different things, but it occurred to me that you are so representative of all the various areas in performance, which SAG-AFTRA has accomplished, really, by bringing everyone together. And because you were an announcer. And
that's how I started.
And on Broadway, and film, and television, and recordings, and the entire gamut, So it is really appropriate that you're here.
Oh, thank you. I'm so thrilled.
It's great. I've known you and worked with you and know a great deal about you and your career, and have always been fond of your work and also of you. So I'm going to jump around a bit, but let me begin with really the beginning. I know that when you were 16, I think, didn't you have your own radio show and interview people, and you were working very early. Tell us a little bit about your early years at the very beginning, back in Danville, Illinois.
Well, it was during World War II, right. And everybody was getting drafted, and there were no announcers at our radio station. It was a CBS affiliate in my hometown, and I saw an ad in the paper. And I went down and auditioned, and I got the job. So I worked after school and weekends. I did the news, I did record shows, interviews, everything. And on the weekends, I was there alone. I played the records, ran across the hall, got the news, ripped it off, read it, and ran the whole station by myself. It was a great experience.
Oh my
and I thought that's what I was going to be. I knew that eventually television was not there yet, but I said, I'm going to be a television announcer. That was my ambition.
So appropriate that you're the first recipient of the Life Achievement Award for SAG-AFTRA because you've done it all. Because you've done it all, from broadcasting to acting to film to television to stage.
Everything but opera and ballet.
Ballet, even close. You're a wonderful dancer. I was going to ask you, when did you start working with Phil Erickson?
Well, Phil was about 4 years older. I knew him and his family. And he had an act, which he'd been out on the road with. Broke up, and he came back to Danville and came to the radio station and said, would you like to go out to California and do an act? And I said, what time will you pick me up? It sounded like an adventure. At the time, it was a lark. We were two young guys just out of the service. Right. So we thought it would be fun, little knowing that I'd never get out of the business.
And you were lip-syncing, right?
Lip-syncing to records. It was very popular back in those days, record acts.
Right.
Yeah, they were all over the place.
I remember when I read that thinking, you were so wonderfully adept on the stage, on Broadway, but then in film, and the technical requirements of lip-syncing to your own voice, when you were doing Mary Poppins or you were doing Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, I thought, well, Dick's been done this for years.
Of course. And when you're looping, right. And you have to match your lips, I found it's one of my best things because of pantomiming to records.
That's right. This is great. You had so much experience coming into this great opportunity, and I'd like you to tell it. We talked years ago. You told me this story of the audition for Bye Bye Birdie with Gower Champion, as your recollection of it.
Yeah. At the time, I was doing a game show for ABC called Mother's Day. We had diaper changing contests and things like that, and I realized I wasn't good at it, but that wasn't my future. So every day when the show was over, I would go out and audition for whatever there was, a play, a musical, anything. And I'd gotten a few callbacks on a couple of things. I think Tom Poston beat me out on one part. But I got up for Gower Champion and sang Once in Love with Amy. You remember the old radio? Yep. Once in Love with Amy. And did a little bit of a soft shoe. And he came up on the stage and said, you've got the part. And I said, it's like in the movies. This is the way it happens? And I said, Mr. Champion, I don't dance. He says, we'll teach you how, which he did. And I went home to my wife and I said, it is like in the movies. He just came up on the stage and gave me the part. Later, I think somebody wanted to replace me because I was still trying to learn to dance and sing, something I hadn't done. So I was under pressure to learn a lot really quick.
Well, you did apparently learn how to sing and dance soon enough to win the Tony for it.
I won a Tony.
You did.
It's funny, the first few weeks I was just scared stiff, stage fright, butterflies, everything. Sure. But once I got used to it and began to have fun and enjoy it, then I was able to perform. And I found I'm never any good unless I'm enjoying it.
I have my little pet theory about your great dancing ability, but it may have nothing to do with reality. But I know that Donald O'Connor, whom I knew and played golf with and was so fond of him. Yeah, and knew him. And he's from Danville, Illinois.
That's right.
And I always thought he was a great dancer and had such a natural flair to him. I love the way he danced.
Oh, me too.
And I think you had that in common, although I know he danced in vaudeville and was maybe trained for more years. But I do believe that when you're dancing and up there, there's a naturalness to it that people can relate to. It seems like, and Donald O'Connor was able to do this, like a fellow who just seems to be able to do it rather than looking trained or formula.
Yeah, well, he started out as a kid.
As a kid.
I remember in grade school, he'd go off on the road
right.
with the Connor family. But I think in Singing in the Rain, I think he was so underrated. People didn't recognize what a great dancer, and he did great comedy and could sing. He did it all.
And very, very natural all the time. I want to mention when we first worked together, and we did Country Girl together with Faye Dunaway, one thing that struck me working with you, Dick, and I loved watching your show, and you were always so natural and in film and on stage, you always seemed to be just you. But the understanding was that, well, as your wife had said to you, well, you're just being yourself, when you put the Dick Van Dyke show and Carl Reiner's writing it for you. So it's easy to say that, but in the work that we were doing, it was anything. You were playing anything but yourself. I mean, it was a whole entirely different character. And yet, I think you still had there was this thing about you where you seemed to be making it up as you were going along, and you were delivering Clifford Odets verbatim, but it somehow came out as you.
Oh, what a compliment.
It's such a gift,
I've never done very many things that heavy.
Right.
But it's a nice change once in a while. Like to play a villain is fun for me.
And you always make it your own in a way that always seems to be just coming out of you and natural. So I think that's, if I may, a great part of your artistry is that you make it look so easy and so natural. It's great to watch.
No, I think it was an advantage for me not to have trained as a dancer, because I probably would have fallen into a pattern, whoever taught me.
Right.
But I had to kind of ad lib and make up my own moves. So I think that was an advantage for me rather than a disadvantage.
Now, speaking of, can we talk a little bit about Mary Poppins, which is such a great film, such a great piece of entertainment, such a winning performance by Julie Andrews and by you. I love that film. I must tell you that for some reason, any film when children fly, I cry. It just gets me. And if I were to watch it today when the little boy says, "Please don't leave us, Mary Poppins," I get teary. But you're so wonderful in that, and it's so free and so joyous. Just tell me about that experience, or tell us about that experience.
Well, it was, I think the Dick Van Dyke Show and Mary Poppins are the two peaks of my whole career because they were such fun to do. Hard work. But I always thought that Walt Disney wanted me because of my singing and dancing. Right. It turns out he had heard me in an interview talking about family entertainment and the dearth of good family entertainment. Oh. That's why he called me. He'd never seen me sing or dance.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
Great.
I played the old man, the old banker.
Yes.
And I went to Walt and I said, I would love to do that. And if you'll let me do it, I won't even charge you. So he had me do a screen test. I made myself up as an old man, and he liked it. I ended up having to donate $4,000 to his art school up in
Valencia. For the opportunity.
Yeah, he was an old horse trader. Wonderful, avuncular man. I loved him. But he was something.
Well, if I may, I think probably Walt Disney also had a sense of you, the man, because you keep a lot to yourself, but you're a very kind man and have been involved a great deal from early on in very good causes, civil rights causes and for children, and I think he sensed that too, if I may. It's a big part of who you are, Dick.
Well, you know, the funny thing was that we were really on kind of opposite sides of the political fence, and we were being interviewed together one day, and someone said, you know, aren't you two kind of at odds over that? And Walt said, that has nothing whatsoever to do with our friendship.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Now, we worked together, and as you said, a serious, dramatic work in which you were fabulous. I had always thought that they missed an opportunity there in Country Girl because in the film, you know, they made it that Bing Crosby was a singer. And I always thought, just change it where you're this great, sad clown from the stage, you know, who's a brilliant comedic as you are, and had the same problem, and just it would personalize it even better. And I didn't know as much then about some of your background, but I know that in this time we're talking about Mary Poppins and the Dick Van Dyke Show, you also were able to meet and spend some time with one of your great heroes, Stan Laurel.
Stan Laurel.
So tell us a little bit about that, because I know it meant a great deal to you.
Funny, we're going through some old pictures, and I found some shots of the two of us taken at his apartment. Oh, God. What a gentleman. I was looking up, this was in the early 60s, I was looking up a phone number in the Santa Monica phone book. And I just have it said Stan Laurel. I thought, it can't be Stan Laurel. But I called up. Anyway, and I said, this is Mr. Laurel? He said, yes. And I told him who I was. He had seen the television show, so he knew who I was. And I said, you know, I'm afraid I've stolen from you a lot over the years. And he said, yes, I know. And he invited me to his apartment. I spent the afternoon with him that Sunday and visited him quite often after that. What a gentleman. He called me Dickie. Right. And one day, on one episode, we did Laurel and Hardy, a sketch. Right. And I begged him to come down to the set and be the technical director. But he wouldn't come out. He'd had a slight stroke, which wasn't even noticeable. But he wouldn't come out. So the night the show was on, afterwards I called him and I said, what did you think? Well, he gave me 40 minutes of notes that I should have known ahead of time. Oh, he said, didn't you remember that I had paper clips as cufflinks, and the brim of the hat wasn't flat enough. Right. And he took the heels off his shoes. I never knew that, to give him that funny stance and that walk. Oh. But he never told me ahead of time. I said, now you tell me. But he was delightful. And I got to do the eulogy at his funeral.
I was going to say, yes, you did. That's just so perfect.
Yeah, what an honor for me.
I think it's appropriate also talking about Stan Laurel because in 1963, he received the Life Achievement Award from SAG.
From SAG, that's so.
So here's your hero and also you were great. Whatever his criticism, you were great playing Stan Laurel because it came from within and you had him down. It was great. It was
he had a little television set that size, and he had his award sitting on the television set.
So the reason I mentioned Country Girl, one, that I got to know you and talk with you and loved working with you, but also as time went on, there were several opportunities for you to do some very serious dramatic work, very meaningful dramatic work, that I thought you were just spectacular in. And another one of my little pet theories is that comedic actors, when they're really good, given the opportunity, are remarkable in drama.
Yeah, you're really right. I've seen it happen.
And you are. And you took some wonderful, was the one that the morning after, or was it?
That was a David Walper.
Yeah.
Why they came to me, they didn't know I am a recovered alcoholic, have been for 30 years. But it was very, very good script. And I said, Mr. Walper, you know, I've done quite a lot of research in this field. And first day on the set, the director was wonderful. He said, you probably know more about this scene than I do. And he kind of let me play it my own way. And it was so effective that I still get people coming out of rehab who've seen the movie. They show it in rehab because the guy doesn't make it.
Right.
And we had quite an argument with the National Council on Alcoholism, who wanted him to recover and have a happy ending. And we insisted that it have the impact that the guy doesn't make it. And it's done its work over the years, that movie.
It's very good, very effective.